Diagnosing the Western condition. The modern West, with its complex tapestry of political, economic, and cultural phenomena, can be critically analyzed through the philosophical framework presented in the text Homo Hubris in the Magian Ethos. This essay proposes that the contemporary Western condition is a product of a dominant ideological undercurrent, which the source text identifies as the Magian ethos. This ethos engenders a specific psychological delusion, the Hubriati-syndrome, which in turn animates an influential ruling class, the Hubriati. Their actions and worldview cultivate a new human archetype, the subspecies Homo Hubris, for whom the entirety of modern mass culture is manufactured. This essay will dissect this critical framework by first defining the foundational Magian ethos, then deconstructing its psychological manifestation in the Hubriati-syndrome, examining the human archetypes it produces, and finally analyzing its tangible impact across the spectrum of Western culture. 2. The foundational framework, defining the Magian ethos. To comprehend the cultural critique at the heart of this analysis, one must first understand its ideological source code, the Magian ethos. This hybrid ethos is presented as the foundational worldview that shapes the motivations and actions of those in power. Its origins are identified as a synthesis of the ethos of the ancient Hebrews and that of the Western Hubriati, a class defined by its hubristic belief in human control. Crucially, the source posits that the essence of this ethos is not a fringe phenomenon, but is historically grounded and widespread, being inherent in Judaism, in Nasrani, and in Islam. The Magian ethos is constructed upon two fundamental tenets that define its character and influence. 1. The notion of being chosen and having a special destiny. 2. The materialistic belief that the individual self is paramount and can master and control everything through the right methods and tools. The ultimate implication of this worldview is a profound and dangerous confidence, the belief that human beings have nothing to fear because they are or can be in control. This core conviction, a declaration of human sovereignty over fate and nature, does not remain an abstract philosophy. Instead, it metabolizes into a specific psychological syndrome that afflicts the very individuals who guide the course of modern society. 3. The psychological manifestation, deconstructing the Hubriati-syndrome. The Hubriati-syndrome is the specific psychological and philosophical belief system through which the abstract Magian ethos infects the minds of influential individuals. It is the operational delusion that translates the ethos into a program for action, cementing a tripartite belief in humanity's ultimate capacity to control destiny, master nature, and command cosmic forces. The source defines this syndrome as the conviction that we human beings, 1. Can control our individual destiny, 2. Can be chosen, favored, and/or protected by some supreme being, and 3. Can devise means to control all natural and even cosmic forces. The second tenet of the syndrome serves as a direct psychological echo of the first tenet of the Magian ethos, the notion of being chosen, forging an explicit link between the foundational ideology and its mental manifestation. Those who exhibit this syndrome are termed Magians of the earth, and their condition is characterized by several key symptoms: a love for and reliance upon technology, a fondness for words and causal abstractions. The source offers a quintessential example of this hubristic mindset, describing the following as a typical statement, which expounds the type of Hubriati view commonly held by Magians of the earth. A premise of the temple is that the psyche-centric consciousness can evolve towards its own divinity through deliberate exercise of the intelligence and will, a process of becoming or coming into being, whose roots may be found in the dialectic method expounded by Plato and the conscious exaltation of the will proposed by Nietzsche. This declaration perfectly exemplifies the syndrome's symptoms. It relies entirely on a cascade of abstractions: psychocentric consciousness, divinity, dialectic method, to construct a narrative of human self-deification. It asserts that through the deliberate exercise of the intelligence and will, humanity can engineer its own evolution, a classic expression of the hubristic belief in total control. This psychological condition is not isolated. It defines a distinct class of individuals and, in turn, helps shape the very populace they control. 4. The human archetypes, the Hubriati and Homo Hubris. The cultural framework animated by the Magian ethos is predicated on the interaction between two distinct human types, the controllers and the controlled. Analyzing these archetypes is central to understanding the functional dynamics of the modern West, as presented in this critique. First among these are the Hubriati, characterized as the influential class of individuals subsumed by the Magian ethos. This class is pervasive and includes politicians, media magnates and their servants, military commanders, government officials, industrialists, bankers, many academics and teachers. Their power is not merely institutional, but ideological, built upon a foundational delusion by abstract concepts. They operate under the spell of constructs such as the state, the nation, and the political pretense of democracy, which they wield to organize and manage society. The second archetype is Homo Hubris, a figure described as a new subspecies and the foot soldier of the Magian. This product of the modern West evolved out of the Industrial Revolution and the imposition of both capitalism and what is called democracy. The distinguishing characteristics of Homo Hubris are personal arrogance, a lack of manners, a lack of respect for anything other than strength, power, or personal gratification. The relationship between these two groups is one of cynical management. The Hubriati, in their role as controllers, manufacture a vacuous, profane, vulgar mass entertainment industry and mass culture. The specific purpose of this cultural output is to satiate and satisfy and to use and control Homo Hubris. It is through Magian occultism, the Magian-controlled media, and the spin, the propaganda, that Homo Hubris is kept docile, perpetuating the dominance of the ruling ethos across the broader social landscape. 5. The societal impact, manifestations of Magian dominance in the West, the theoretical framework of the Magian ethos, the Hubriati-syndrome, and its human archetypes finds its proof in the tangible, real-world conditions of Western society. The source text presents the current state of Western culture not as an accident of history, but as the calculated victory of the Magian ethos, made manifest through the actions of the Hubriati. This dominance is visible across several key domains. Economic materialism. The ethos is embodied in the triumph of consumerism, capitalism, and usury over genuine, numinous, living culture. This victory of the material over the spiritual establishes the foundational tone of modern society, mechanistic and managerial vulgarity. This materialism extends into the intellectual and governmental spheres, where a unified worldview reduces human life to a controllable substance. This is expressed in the vulgarity of mechanistic Marxism, Freudian psychology, and the social engineering and planning and surveillance of the nanny state. Each represents an attempt to master the human condition through abstract, materialistic systems. Cultural profanity. The most visible expression of this dominance is found in modern entertainment centered around sex, selfish indulgence, lack of manners and dignity, and vacuous celebrities, with Hollywood cited as the key exemplar. This profane culture is not an organic development, but a manufactured product designed to satiate and distract Homo Hubris. Political dishonor. Finally, the ethos manifests in the character of modern Western politics, which is defined by the conniving, the hypocrisy, the slyness, and the personal dishonorable conduct of nearly all its practitioners. This behavior is presented as the natural outcome of a worldview devoid of honor and driven by the pursuit of power and control through abstract manipulation. These interconnected symptoms paint a picture of a civilization shaped from the top down by a powerful and hubristic ideology. 6. Conclusion. The ascendancy of Homo Hubris. The critique presented through the lens of the Magian ethos offers a cohesive, if stark, diagnosis of the modern West. It posits a clear causal chain. A foundational Magian ethos, rooted in a belief in human control and destiny, fosters a psychological Hubriati-syndrome within a ruling Hubriati class. This influential elite, deluded by abstractions and driven by a will to power, in turn engineers a society and culture tailored to manage a new type of human. The ultimate result is a managed and debased Western culture designed for and populated by Homo Hubris, a subspecies kept almost totally unaware and uncaring of the reality of the modern world and of their potential as human beings. The ascendancy of this archetype marks the apparent triumph of a worldview that champions control over character, materialism over meaning, and hubris over humility.